Okay, so this is the 4th guild-specific guide. Reiterate yet again, this is not a how-to kill guide. It is purely a guide for introducing new players to our guild who you might be a few bosses behind, and you want a quick orientation into the way we deal with the bosses. Yes, I'm sure that you've looked at kill videos of other guilds and you've looked at strategies and things like that. We might do it very differently, and even in little ways it's quite different, so it just give you a bit of a heads up as to exactly how we do this. Tyrant Velhari, in terms of the damage output, sort of same as Heroic, obviously more. In terms of positioning, far more crucial, far more important. If you're in melee, you will have a particular place where you need to be for Infernal Tempest. Doesn't necessarily matter. At other times, you might find yourself having to move as well. Ringers on the pull there. If you get Annihilating Strike, you stand still. But if you're in melee, or if you're not anyway, move out the way of it so you don't get the after effect from it. When the ad comes in, you can cleave onto it. We want to get the ad down in a reasonable time, but we're not bursting it down. We're trying to get them both down at a reasonable pace. Infernal Tempest, you know the deal here. When it comes in, it's coming in a few seconds. You need to take 2, you get 2 ticks, which don't do you any harm. Then move out, take 2 more, then move back in. Should be clear. Just make sure you are moving to clear space. Particularly important if you're melee. In theory, if you can be on the hitbox of the boss and you wait for your 2 pulses and then you move just outside of those 2, you can still be in melee range. Edicts, if you get Edict, you need to get yourself into melee. This needs to be shared by a lot of people. And otherwise, you're going to die. Unless, of course, you can sort of immune it off. Then you sort of bugger off and do what you like. Range, you will have a sort of position spread around the boss. You must stick to that position. When you have to move, because of Infernal Tempest, obviously you are just going to little move, but you move back. This is the key thing. You must make sure you move back to your position so we don't all end up bunched up in one particular place. And melee, it is ultra important that you move to where you are assigned to move, because melee is a bit of a problem for this on Infernal Tempest. But in actual fact, you can accommodate quite a lot of melee if you all stand in the correct place and move in the correct way during the Infernal Tempest. Okay? If you need any tips on that, then just ask. Again, you're sort of trying to cleave we want the ad sort of dead quite soon at this point. Edict goes in. We've got Infernal Tempest at the same time as Edict, so cooldown time. Be very, very careful here not to take excessive damage. Remember, you need to be inside that Edict if you're in melee. Don't be running out of that. But at the same time, you need to make sure you're not dying as well. Now, when the boss gets down to starts entering the next phase here, then we're all going to shift to the blue marker, but don't do it early. Don't move too early. So at this point, we'll just make sure that's gone out of the way. Then we're all going to stack on blue. Now, we're going to get fonts at this point, or some people are. When you got fonts, you move to the green marker. At other times, you stay on the boss. Now, in a short while, we're going to get the next ad spawning, the Harbinger. At this point, we go full-on single target DPS on the boss. Don't touch the Harbinger. Unless, usual thing, if doing damage on that increases your single target damage on the boss, fine. But that is the only exception to this. We absolutely have to make sure we're bursting this boss down. It is one of those key phases of the fight where it is the difference between succeeding and failing. Okay, so Harbinger has spawned at this point. So the ring's been popped. Heroism's been popped. You're going to pop your second part. We're just going to burst the hell out of the boss. Everyone must do this. Don't think, oh, I better use it later on when I get more damage. No, this time. This is when it is now. The Harbinger does a heal cast, which there will be an interrupt rotation for. Obviously, if you're in that interrupt rotation, make sure that you'll be on top of that and you know which you're dealing with, the odds and the evens. You can see big wigs here. I've got a message flashing up there. Font, so I'm moving to the green here. So I'm not splashing damage onto people without the font. And again, bursting down the boss, always bursting down the boss until that gets to the next phase. Once we get to that next phase, then we can finish off that ad as we go into the next lot. So I'm just going to skip across to that. Okay, getting quite close to the next phase. The other thing to point out is if your font is about to wear off, there's a few seconds, you move yourself to orange. You can see someone moving to orange before they move to blue. When the next phase starts, which has started now, we all stack under the boss. We can now finish off the other ad. Watch out for despoiled ground. As soon as that spawns, we need to move back, but don't go mad. We're just moving out of it. Try and all stick together here. And we're heading sort of towards this wall to the back, and then we're going to head towards the red marker and meet. Now, if you're ranged, you could get an edict. You have to use the demonic gateway immediately. Make sure that it's free. You've got an aerial view, perhaps, so that if you get edicts, that you can immediately move away. There you go, straight away. Otherwise, this can actually kill us in one go if you are really slow. Things like blinking away don't really do, because it doesn't quite get you far enough. Maybe if you've got double blink. Obviously, save a little defensive cooldown for a gravel there, and then again stack back up. And be ready to move to the next marker with the despoiled ground. As soon as the sovereign's in place, we're going to go on to that. Ring will be popped again, so again, save some cooldowns for this. We need to burst this sovereign down ASAP. No point in really cleaving at this point because the boss is taking like 90% reduced damage. It's all on the sovereign. We need to burst this down immediately. And if we get this tidily done, then in actual fact, it should be an easy kill. Again, gateway, just make sure that's in place. For if you get edict, don't go. What some people have done is to click on it with a hair trigger when they haven't even got the edicts, just when it's arriving. Make sure you have got it, but then also make sure you're ready to click it immediately that happens. So there you go, edict gone. At this point, it's relatively straightforward to control. If you're a healer, we need to make sure that the tanks get some love. The rest of the DPS are not really taking damage. Like despoiled ground, very little damage if you move sharply out of it. It's all on the tanks, making sure they've got obviously shields and absorbs and things like that are preferred. We need at least one tank alive at this point. Everyone else burst the hell out of it. We're doing increased damage at this point. But of course, remember, it's important that the cooldowns were saved for the right parts in the fight before, which was the sovereign in this phase, because that needs to be killed quickly. But we are going to do extra damage at this point as well. Okay, there we go, done.